This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy, Camel, and today I've got a little bit of Bitcoin stuff for you. I want to check in on some on-chain data because it's been a little while since we've done that. And then we're going to look at some charts as always, and a few little pieces of bonus content thrown in there for good measure. If you are new to the channel, and I know that a bunch of people are newer to the channel and are coming in of late, then please use any of the many resources available to learn the rules of cycle theory. Otherwise, you are wasting your time being here. There's a tutorial in the playlist, there's PDFs you can download, there's a whole website full of stuff. So if you're new to the channel, please go and understand the rules of cycle theory. And a quick update on a slight change of schedule. I'm not going to do a deep dive on Saturday because I've got some family stuff to attend. And the members video I'm going to put out on Sunday instead of Saturday. So I'll continue to update on this for the rest of the week, just so that hopefully nobody misses it. So over in the world of crypto, okay, the XRP ledger is going to power the real estate tokenization of the Dubai Land Department. How crazy is this, right? We're actually moving towards tokenized real estate. I know there's a few projects out there that kind of already do it, but let's be honest, nobody cares about those. I found this morning and I wanted to ask you guys a question, right? If you are bearish at the moment, then are you aware you are bearish, having just left behind the highest weekly close in history for Bitcoin? The last week's weekly candle closed at just over $109,000. So I think if you're bearish here, you may need to just start to consider some other possible outcomes. Over in Florida, they are proposing eliminating capital gains tax on Bitcoin. And it's not just Bitcoin, it's also XRP and stocks. So pretty crazy. I've long been saying that if this thing is going to end up being a monetary network, then we need to not be able to have to incur capital gains taxes for disposals. Imagine if every time you spent your fiat currency, you had to pay some capital gains tax. That would not be a smooth system, would it? So I like what I'm seeing, and hopefully within a few years' time, this will be the standard. Saylor continues to buy more and more and more Bitcoin, just acquiring another 4,000-ish the other day, and he is now north of 80,000 Bitcoin acquired in the last 64 days. By the way, this now brings the total that they hold to over 500,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet, which translates to about 2.9% of all the Bitcoins currently in circulation, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. I want to look at some on-chain data next, and I want to start with the short-term holder NUPL, which is the net unrealized profit and loss, currently sitting at about 27%. Now, historically, the selling pressure intensifies above 40%, which would align with a Bitcoin price of approximately 162k Bitcoin. Again, tells us to keep an open mind about higher prices walking forward. And if this purple line here can make its way up to around this neighborhood, that should be coinciding with about 162k Bitcoin. And then we can look for at least a weekly cycle top to come in, if not the ultimate top. And it's been a while since I checked the CBBI, which is now sitting at 79. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, this aggregates all of these on-chain metrics and potential top call signals, and it gives you a score between 1 and 100 or 0 and 100. And if you go back, you can see that the prior prints for the CBBI above about 95 were good at marking tops historically. When I say this, there's always one smart aleck that has to write in the comments, yeah, well, Camel, they changed the calculation. Look, I don't care, bro, all right? Just focus, okay? If this thing can move higher and we can use that as a piece of confluence with the TA, and both the TA and this are pointing at a potential top coming in for Bitcoin, then I'm going to be more than happy with that. This is not the be-all, end-all, but I do expect this line down here, the CBBI, to work its way up above 95 as the Bitcoin price goes parabolic, and then I'm going to look for a top to come in both. A lot of people for a while were talking about this bull market peak indicators from Coinglass being better than the CBBI, but this thing is still telling everyone to hold with 100% confidence, and I haven't really seen it change from that. So maybe this will end up being useful. Maybe as we start to approach new highs, this thing is going to shift towards 100% sell. I don't know. I don't have a great deal of confidence in this, but I think that might just be because I've not used it before. For the short-term Bitcoin price action, nothing really changes, right? Yesterday, I was talking about an ABC or a two drives pattern into that cycle low early June timeframe. It seems like this is what we're on the way to doing. I noticed Paul originally had this box, this 2 starting from about the 6th of June. It looks like it's been moved to the left slightly, but either way, we know early June we are going to get that cycle low and we're going to be able to back that. I also found this from Paul. This would make a lot of sense based on the cycles. The Dixie for a while has been a bit of a problem child for me. The reason I say that is there's no clear weekly cycle confirmation. We have no trend line break in here. Now, if what it's going to do is, if I shunt this over slightly, something like this, okay, then we can form perhaps a week, I don't know, 10 or 11 high, left translate and fail. Then I think we can say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's what you'd expect to see out of a weekly cycle low. But this right here with no trend line break, to me feels like we haven't yet confirmed the weekly cycle low. But if I go back to this chart right here, the Dixie chart, you can see if this ends up being A, B, and C to a new high, that would give us enough time, and it would give us the trend line break to confirm the weekly cycle low, which then I would have no problem saying, okay, look for left translation and failure, and then we can get that big blow off top into the end of the year. There is always the outside chance that we're just going to continue to move to the downside from here. But really from a cycle perspective, I think what we should be cheering on here is something like a week 10 left translation with a breakout. And then I think we can look for lower numbers. Over in the stock market, we are days away now from entering the window. Once we're inside the window, we can start to look for a confirmed cycle low and a swing and a reversal. The camel indicator will pick it. And again, we can get long out of that cycle low and then see what the market has to offer us. Does it have new highs in it? Or are we going to have to deal with failed cycles and a confirmed bear market in the stocks? I wish I could tell you with certainty. I know a lot of people would love to tell you with certainty, but let's be honest, nobody knows, okay? That's why we use the cycles, that's why we stick to the system. So we'll wait for the cycle low to show up, we'll back that trade, and then we can remain cautiously optimistic. But I also am going to be on guard for around a day 5 to 10 left translation there in case it starts to head for cycle failure, in which case I want to be short because this will merely be the onset of a lower high and structurally looks pretty much identical to this setup back here. Just the first spill was a lot deeper than back in 2022. But in the short term, take about a week off, right? Wait for the swing, back the swing, and then happy days. We'll see what happens out of that. Gold so far has rejected at resistance, so we'll give this a few more days of space, continue to push the trade until it becomes unreasonable to do so. I do wonder if what we're going to do here is this kind of bull flag in here. I wonder if this is what we're working on, something like this, right? Little chop, and then off we go. That would be pretty bullish. Either way, I don't mind pushing this for a bit more. Worst case scenario, I think we find a daily cycle low inside the window, and then it should be on from that point. I'll be interested to see whether this is breakout, retest, resumption in the minors, right? Because we've got the breakout so far into the long weekend. If we can get retest and resumption, that to me would tell me that we are about to break this trend line in gold. So I want to continue to stay long and push these trades for a little while longer. Overall, I don't think it makes much difference, right? We're either about to do it now or we're going to do it in a couple of weeks' time. But either way, I do think something like this is on the table for gold. And I continue to maintain that nobody is bullish enough on the precious metals. And last but not least, Bitcoin looks to be working on the ABC2 drives into the cycle low, doesn't it? So happy days there. Again, if you are new, okay, go and learn the rules of cycle theory. I can see a lot of people getting really frustrated and they think these cycles are made up just because this one fell outside of the expected window. But again, if you knew the rules, okay, then you would not have a problem with this current setup. In fact, you would be quite excited about this current setup. So I'll say no more. If you know, you know. If you're a level 3 member, expect on Sunday, as I said earlier, for me to upload a members video, and then we've got a whole heap of crypto stocks to back. I'm going to be probably adding some Bitcoin out of this cycle low as well. And the other thing I wanted to point out before I love you and leave you, this is the 10-year yield, right? The chart of truth. Now, the daily viewers will know, all the way through here, I kept saying, let's hope that we don't make a new higher high. Okay, now we did, and I think it was in a live stream that we pointed this out, and I said, you know, that's not a good sign. But I was also saying, I have no problem with it so long as it's a marginal higher high that reverses immediately. Okay, so if what happens is we continue to see this sell-off intensify, if we end up doing something like this, and we're down here sub 4% by about the middle to the end of June, then I have no problem in saying, okay, everything's still going roughly according to plan, and this was just kind of a bit of a deviation to the upside. But if this continues to be higher highs and higher lows, okay, we get another higher low set and then another higher high, I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And I also think we're going to have to be seriously open to the Fed stepping in and doing something that I was not expecting, which is bond market intervention and being the buyer of last resort for its own debt. So I don't want to entertain that scenario just yet because there's no reason to, okay? But the moment we get a higher low and a higher high, we have to put that on the table. And I think not only do we have to put that on the table, it has to become the base case that we're weeks away from Fed intervention at that point. So stay tuned, okay? We'll keep following it. We'll keep tracking it every day. And as one final nod to the members, GME, right? If you know, if you know, you know. Okay, so other than that, I hope you have a fantastic week. And until next time, take it from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rock in the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame, sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel